And it is, good afternoon, everyone. It's March 20th, 2024. This is the GBOS work session 2023 budget review. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors, its committees and subcommittees are subject to the Alaska Open Meetings Act as found in Alaska Statute 44.62.310 and Anchorage Municipal Code 1.25 public meetings. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors operates under the Girdwood Public Meetings Standards of Conduct. I'll call this meeting to order at 12:02. I'm Brianna Sullivan, co-chair and fire department supervisor. Go ahead, Jennifer, next.
Jennifer Wingard, GBOS co-chair and land use supervisor.
Thank you. And then in the room, whoever would like to go first.
Guy Wade, Parks and Rec and Cemetery Supervisor.
Okay, and Guy, are you the only one right now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And for the record, Kyle and Margaret, just state when Mike gets there. I presume he would probably be there soon or in person, or I'll see him here online. Back to the agenda. And I think this is the meeting that Amanda was not able to come for the roll call today.
She just came in. She
just came in. Okay.
Yeah, here she comes.
Thank you. Amanda, come state your name when you get close enough, please.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Amanda Sassy, Public Safety and Roads and Utilities Supervisor. And I'm sorry, I am also at my regular job, so I'm listening in as best I can.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, so that's all we have so far today. Great, thanks everyone for being here. Are there any disclosures this afternoon? I don't hear or see any, so I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for today.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Guy.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anyone opposed? We'll go by assent. The agenda is approved. Announcements. The public is encouraged to ask questions and provide comment. Please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. To help discussions stay productive, please direct your comments to the board rather than other members of the public, and keep your comments focused on the business under discussion. Please be respectful of everyone's opinions. Number one on the agenda is the Fire Department 2023 year-end report. Kyle, you may take it away when you're ready.
Okay. Today, I'll just start with the summary first. Today, as we do every year, we want to go through and give you guys a review of the operating budgets for the budgets versus actuals for the previous year. And so we've gotten to a point now where the books are mostly closed, and we have a good idea of what we spent for 2023 versus what we budgeted. Overall, we spent 90% of the operating budget for the 4 different departments that operate here within the service area currently. And a lot of the reason for the surplus has to do with some movements in capital dollars, which we'll get into as we go through it. But you can see overall, we have about a remaining balance of $388,000 from the original 4.2 budgeted for 2023. I'll start off with fire, and what I have for you today, like here, I show you is a summary, and then I'm going to take you down, and then I'll give you the budgets versus the actual fund center accounting sheet. Show you.
Kyle?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Just before you start fire, I'll interrupt for the record that Mike Edgington is online. Thank you.
Gotcha. Starting with fire. So in 23, we budgeted just under $1.6 million for the department, and expended just under $1.4 million, which left the remaining balance of $214,000. I'm going to take you down and show you what that is. That $214,000 are contributions that were originally set to go to capital or paying off loans. So I'll take you down and show you here. Here's the non-labor aspect of their budget and where the money was spent in the different areas. As you can see, from operating supplies to office supplies, to as simple as tires. All those things were probably associated with this $30,000 budget line here in this area, and that is mostly for repair and maintenance, and mostly focused towards apparatuses, so vehicles, repair and maintenance of vehicles in that aspect. In this line here is the contracted services. So this is the money that is paid to the nonprofit to run the fire department with personnel and staffing and operations. So expended was the over $1 million here to the fire department that's paid quarterly. So each quarter there's a payment, lump sum payment given each quarter to the different departments. And then once again, more operational items here. So with that, that budget, the non-labor was in a surplus of $402. So that didn't run over. What we get into next is the transfer to other funds. And so what you're going to find in this budget is a little bit funky, because what we last year approved, or the board of supervisors approved last year, was taking out a $800,000 loan for the new Engine 41. And with that, that money was transferred from the savings accounts of the municipality into our account. So you see this $800,000 right here. That didn't come from taxpayers. That came from the savings account, which was then applied to the down payment for the new engine, which is either in production right now or close to being in production. And so that $800,000 was there. Originally, we had a contribution of $74,121 that we had going towards capital. A couple of reasons that money didn't get transferred to capital. One was that there was a little bit of a worry at one point that we were going to be, the operating budget for the fire department, the nonprofit, was going to run short. So we held that money back. And then we wanted to go move the money. We had a change in personnel at AFD, which then it made it complicated to transfer this money because it requires a assembly approval. And we didn't have enough time at the end of year to make it happen. So with that, that $74,000 ended up not going into the capital account, and now has dropped into our undesignated account. And so we'll be sitting in there, and we'll probably see that when the audit comes out, and the audit of the undesignated account comes out in midsummer, July, most likely. And then we moved down, we also had $80,000 drop into the undesignated account. Now, this was originally set up for, we thought we would start making loan payments right away for the $800,000 here for the new engine. But the way it worked out was that we were able to receive this money for the new engine, and we won't start loan payments on it until the engine is actually here in Girdwood and operational, which we're hoping is going to be the end of 24, most likely the beginning of 25, that we see that engine. So, so these loan principal payments were not used for this year. For 23, so that money has now dropped into the undesignated account for the Girdwood service area. So we will see that. And then we get into the IGCs, and you can go through the IGCs here. There was a little bit of surplus in the IGCs of about $63,000. So that made a difference there. And then overall, we had $218,000 left there. Now, what kind of screws it all up is that they show this loan proceeds coming in, which then shows us having a deficit. Well, that's not accurate, but this the way it works out here is that that gets in there. So we really had a surplus of $218,000 for this operating year. Revenues were down a bit as for the service area. We estimated that we would have $21,000 in revenue. There was $17,000, so there was a about $3,500 short there. But overall, I would say we're within that 215-14 range for a surplus, and that all goes back up to these capital dollars here, which have now dropped into the undesignated account. That is a quick and brief summary there of the fire department. And so I'll open up for questions if you have any. Or maybe Chief Weston, if she wants to add anything as well, but I'll let her do that too.
I think at another point I can give you, for the interest of time, I can give you a complete overall picture, including EMS and how it went, and grants and everything. But I think for the purpose of the fire service area budget, that was an excellent presentation. Thank you, Kyle.
And thing to keep in mind is that we don't see, we don't manage the operational daily costs. That's under Chief Weston and her staff to operate. We just manage the money that we give to the nonprofit, and as you can see here in this line. And so as Chief Weston alluded there, she can come back and give a more detail about how this money, over this $1 million that was appropriated to them, was spent. So plus the EMS dollars that come from a separate fund. So. But yeah, I'll take questions.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, can you remind me again what the nominal surplus was? Is that the 218 number? 218,000.
Yeah.
So we should think about, right. So that actually basically is almost exactly the what would it be? 63 plus the 74 and a bit plus the 80 is what, about 215-ish. So
yes.
217. So that's almost exactly the IGC surplus, or the unspent IGC allocation plus the capital and the loan repayments that we were intending to hand over. So pretty much we're on budget, almost exactly on budget. Correct. Yep. We would have used these capital funds. Either way, they've landed in our undesignated account. We just will need to appropriate to the fire department. So should we think about that as a prepayment for next year, and we'll basically be a year ahead of where we expected to be? We have a year's worth of reserve. Correct. Is that the way to think about that? Yeah. That's the way I look at it, is that once that engine is done, we should have a larger contribution. So we're taking, because right now we're taking out an $800,000 loan, but once the engine's done, I think we can make a substantial payment and lower that loan payment down significantly. Okay, so that's the way to do it, is to make a larger initial payment rather than treat it as a reserve for a later payment. Okay, got it. Yep. I would say that's the way to do it, and we just reimburse the municipality general fund for the use of that loan payment. Okay, but that's presumably a decision we will make when we have all the information in front of us. Correct, and once I really see a true, because sometimes our undesignated account is affected by what our operating total budget is. So going back up here, our reserves need to match what we have here. Sorry, back up to 23. So, this year we did have an increase in our operating budgets because of contributions to capital, and then also increase to the fire department. So that will affect what our reserves are within our designated and undesignated accounts. Yep. I didn't have a chance to comment on those initial numbers, but interestingly enough, this year we're about 820 after tax exemptions. So it's gone up about another 6%. Yeah, and you're referring to the assessed value going up. The assessed value in 2024, yes. It's about 8, it's gone up by about another 6%. Okay.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Mike. Chief Weston has her hand up next.
Oh, I just wanted to mention, does that include what Kyle can see? I can't see those numbers, obviously, as a nonprofit, but does that include any false alarm billing the municipality would have done, or out of area response?
It does show fire service fees, so that's revenue collected from probably things like that, and it showed that there was $17,450 collected.
Okay. All right, I'm going to follow up on that to make sure that they actually did the billing for false alarms, because sometimes they forget. And I just wanted to make sure, because that number seems very much like the out of area response billing, but I want to make sure that they did the false alarm billing too. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Kyle, I have one, but I think it goes without saying that you already discussed with the last questions. But so that number, that 80,000 could change at the end of this year or early next year, and then GBOS would decide with your assistance, obviously, what number to pull from undesignated for that down payment, well, not down payment, but loan payment.
Correct. Yeah. And it would essentially be, how much we want to put up in principal, and then how much do we want to take out in loan. So yeah, I'll work with the board when we get to the point when we see the final costs on the engine, which shouldn't change significantly, but there could be some modifications that come along as they get through production that might change the costs. But for the most part, we know that at this point in time, we owe 8,000 towards that engine. So yeah, we will look at what amount of principal do we want to put down before we make our first loan payment.
Okay, thank you. And Jennifer, was your hand up? And anyone else?
It was, but I think the answer to my question was included in the context of yours, which is that those funds that excess 200 some K land and stay in undesignated until we potentially apply them for the payment. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. They can stay there, and we'll have a accounting of that fund by midsummer after they finish their audit. And then one thing I'll just point out for 24, we've already made, and I think the assembly approved last night, we've made this transfer. So the fire department feels very confident there's not going to be too much of a chance for a shortfall this year. So we went ahead and moved this 74,000. So that has last night the assembly approved that, I believe, under consent agenda.
Yes, they did.
And so that money approved. Okay, so that's ahead of the game. And then we do have another 80,000 in this year's 24 operating budget, but we've used actually a portion of that, which the GBOS just approved at the last meeting, to pay off the water assessment from when the fire station was remodeled. So that has been as well taken care of. So there'll be a little bit less funding here available, but we don't need loan payments this year, and like I said, until end of year. So that's all been calculated out. So I just want to give you a heads up on that.
Thank you, Kyle. Go ahead, guys.
Are those IGCs, are they, do we typically come under on those, or they typically bill out to?
Usually we build out. So I was surprised, actually, especially this one here, the AFD shop. It may be just that we had less vehicles being repaired last year, or less vehicle expenses. But usually that's, we've had some years where new transmissions, new axles, things like that has really driven that cost there. So that was under, and then the other one was operations management, which usually they always take the full amount on that, but they didn't. And so they left some money behind in the office of the fire chief. This could be in relation to that they had a big shakeup with the leadership in AFD finance. Somebody took a new job, and then they had a lag time, and these could have just got missed. So in the end, it's a benefit to the service area that we didn't get billed for those from AFD for their support.
I'm just curious. We know they're not going to come back on.
No, they can't now. It's locked. So
okay.
Yep.
And then 800K that we got from the muni, did they? There's no interest or anything on that. They don't charge any.
No interest until the apparatus is here.
So it's just a transfer of funds.
Transfer of funds and payment made to the. But once we receive the apparatus and we take ownership of it, then we are under interest plan to repay it. So.
On the IGCs, we generally on the budget, we apply the previous year's IGCs to our budget estimate for the following year. So, but it sounds like this 63, we shouldn't expect to be an ongoing thing. This is just a one-off.
I think it's a one-off. Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, you don't see that, especially in the first two lines up there. They usually the fire chief, operation management. They want that money right away.
Okay.
Chief Weston has her hand up too. Thank you, Guy and Kyle.
I was going to say, I think Kyle's correct in his analysis of maybe they've forgotten to capture some things, because given the of what we had get in the shop and for the length of time and what had to be done, including getting the 2 new command vehicles up and running, I'm really surprised that we're coming in under budget on IGCs. So I don't know whatever finance gods looked our way with sunshine, but I'll take it.
It's been cloudy other years, so it's a.
All right, well, that is nobody got any questions from there. I can go to the next one if that's all right with you, Brianna.
Yes, please. I don't see any more hands, and off to police.
Okay, so we will, I think we have streets next, is that right? But we'll go with streets and so we spent 90% of this budget. We had 131,000 remaining, and that had to do with because we moved some money for capital. And so with the big fish culvert project, some things got moved around and had to be paid out of there. So I'll go through it real quick here. This is actually, next one is police. I will go with police since it's next in line. Police is pretty straightforward. We spent pretty much 99% of the budget, and we had 3,000 left, and that had to do mostly with our other professional or other operating supplies. Things like we use for towing cars, impounding cars, signage, special events, bearware, sponsorships, different public safety things. We just were under budget with that. So that's where our expense was. We know our fixed costs every year for the contract actually with Whittier, and then we have our rental fees, which we had an excess of $11 there. So overall, that budget's right on pace. We have a small IGC with it. It was $31 under for there. Just the accounts payable they charge us to pay the bills, the invoices monthly. And then in that aspect, so 99% of the budget spent that year. That one's pretty straightforward for police. So I'll take any questions associated with this one.
Thank you, Kyle. And police was next on the agenda that I'm reading, so you're fine to do that if there are any questions for Kyle before Parks and Rec was the next one.
Okay, so we'll go to Parks and Rec, and I'll take us back up to the summary real quick, and then we'll go down. So for the summary, we spent, once again, 90% of this budget. And the main driver on this one was that we received some grants last year, which helped us to offset some of the costs. So we didn't actually end up tapping into some of the monies that we thought we were going to when we estimated the budget during the budget period. I'll take us down there and take a look at it real quick. So with Parks and Rec, you can see our labor time. We were a bit over this year, and we calculated for that because we knew that we weren't going to do less contracted service with trail crews. And we've made those adjustments for 24 so that this fund now is adequately funded for our 2 seasonals. And we kept them on longer just because they were available and we had work to do. So they stayed on with us till into October, I believe. And then our operating supplies, we spent lots of funds there because we had some grant money that helped us with some of this, and then also some fundraising events as well from private donators. So we had less expenses in those areas. And everything else was within where we thought it was going to be. And now keep in mind that when accounting does it, we set these item lines, but then sometimes they assign different things like our repair and maintenance supplies can be also tagged down to ground maintenance services. And so things kind of get moved around. So you'll see different lines get filled in according to where they think it should be identified as a budget line. We paid out all our nonprofit grants. And then we didn't do advertising last year, but we might be doing more advertising this year now that we have a paperback and functional here. So we do keep that line item there. And then we had some rentals in that aspect. And then our contracted services. So this is where we hired a trail crew to come in and work for us last summer. And so we had actually matching grants there that helped offset our costs there for that. And we had our public utilities, which was just $88 over. So which is good. I haven't touched that line much in the last couple of years, but it's still holding at that amount. And then we had computer replacements and then upgrades for the teams programs and things like that we had to deal with. And then we made our contribution to capital, which was 100,000. So that went into the capital account. And then our IGCs, I'll kind of scroll down here. Once again, some money was left by the departments. So that stays with the service area and goes into our undesignated account. So there's $12,000, close to $12.5 thousand there left that wasn't taken by the departments for their support here for us. So yep, a little bit excess there. And then you can see our revenues down here. So our revenues beat expectations. We expected about $3,100. We made $4,500. So we had a $1,400 surplus for revenue. And then in the end, we had about close to $39,000 left over. So 90% of the budget was expended there for Parks and Rec. I'll take any questions.
Any questions in the room or online? Thank you very much, Kyle, though. That's good news in
Yes.
in a fun way, but it's not necessarily planned, I know.
And then I'll take us down. So one thing we wanted to include, and sorry, the order kind of got mixed up when the PDF set it up, but in the packet today is all the nonprofit grant end of season or full program activity report for all the different grants. So this is interesting to see how they spent the money, what their focus was, and gives you guys a chance to see the end of year reports for them. So we included it in here for your reading. And if you have any questions related to this, please feel free to reach out to Margaret and she can answer them. But these are the things that we get back from them every year in that aspect. And I'm going to scroll down here and get us to roads. Which page is that again?
Roads would be on 38.
38. So
there's a lot of Parks and Rec in there.
A lot of Parks and Rec. Okay, so to street maintenance. The first one is labor. So these are the expenses for Margaret and I, and we were just over budget there. And so that came in pretty accurate. We tried to keep overtime in check, and so we ended up $1,300 over for the year. And then we get into the operating supplies and the different things in our non-labor, as you can see here. For some reason, I'm very surprised that we had the 66,000. I need to look at this further. That's usually associated when we buy each of sand for the winter. And to see that, I think what I might have done this year is we might have bought it through the contractor. But I'm trying to remember what happened there. So that's not typical. And then we were definitely buying more culvert through the contractor this year through having them bid projects for us. So they were just providing that. So we were using less on that maintenance supply there in that area. The other thing about this year is we moved some money around. So you can see we changed the budget from 50,000 to 650,000 as we moved money into capital. Several of the large projects, like the work we did on Brenner Circle and also the new fish culvert down on Mount Hood, those were considered major capital projects. So some of those funds were moved into the capital account so that we could pay for them there since they became a capital asset. And then that's what led to less funds being expended through the contract. We have a contract for 700,000, and then it shows here we expended 608,000. And that's because some of the funds were paid through the capital account because of their capital assets. So because they're larger than the typical driveway culvert. So that's why you ended up with an excess here. But overall, we spent just over 700,000 when you put the capital projects and the standard maintenance together. I think we spent just about 702,000 in 23. And that's that's significant because usually we're just under 700,000, but with the heavy early winter through, that early storm in November and then consistent snow all the way till Christmas, we were much more active with street maintenance than in past years. So yeah, it was a very active year, but with the accountants, as I said, they moved some money around to pay it in the right location because of what the project was. And then this public utility is down. I think there was some transferring over to Parks and Rec to pay a few things. So that is sort of offsetting what's going on there. What happens here is this public utility pays for the power down in the service yard or the service area yard, and then also the Glacier City Hall and a few other things there. And then we did make the contribution to capital. We did move 50,000 from operating there, so there's a $250,000 contribution to capital this year in that area. And then our IGCs, there's about 9,000 left over from that budget. And then overall, there was about 128,000 left from this operating budget, so 90% spent for the year in that area. So I'll take any questions for streets.
Mike has one. Thank you, Kyle.
Could you say a little bit more about public utilities? I'm not sure I completely followed that. So we should think of this as joint between both roads and parks, and then you split it. Right. Okay. And how much was it for parks?
Going back up to parks, I think we spent $20-something thousand on public utilities.
Page
Okay. What did we? 25. And what did we have it budgeted as?
We had public utilities. We had it budgeted at 22,000, and we spent 22,088.
Okay, and then the other one we had 40, and we spent 15. So
40,
okay,
15. So
it was overall lower.
It was
quite a significant amount.
Which surprises me because usually we're pretty close. So I'm going to look into that further just to get a better understanding what happened there.
Okay, and that would be mostly electricity for down at the yard.
Yes, but it depends on the building. We may be paying sewer, and we pay sewer on a larger, because since we're industrial use, we like sewer for associated with the Glacier City Hall, and then.
Oh, right, yeah, for the whole.
Like that. So, and then we also, between the two budgets, one of the budgets, it gets assigned the sewer and water for the building we're in now, which includes the fire department, library, and community room. So all those things get paid out of there. So,
okay, but we should kind of think of it really functionally. We should think of it as a single thing that's just artificially split between two.
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
Anyone else online or in the room? Okay, Kyle, I think unless anyone has any more, then it's roads, number 4. Well,
yep.
Yeah.
We just finished. So the other thing we have in there today is, and in here for you to look at, is we give a summary of projects completed. So this is the winter and summer road maintenance project completed, and it goes through and gives you a summary of everything that happened in the past year, and it talks about the individual projects. We did less small projects and we did bigger projects this year for roads. So you'll see that in here. We did the large culvert down on Mount Tahoe, on Lake Tahoe, and then we did the mine roads. We did the rebuild of the road section there, and then on Brenner Circle, we did a whole rebuild there as well. So those were 3 large projects, and as compared to year past, where we do a bunch of driveway and ditching, we didn't do that as much this year as we focused on these projects here. And it gives our running project list of things that we like to get completed for the coming years. This has to really do with the road maintenance yard down there, and then the materials that we'll be ordering in 2024. And then I just try to include pictures so you can see the different work that happened throughout the summer out there, and the befores and then the afters of the different projects we work on. throughout the summer. So yeah, that's all there. You guys can see that in the packet, and it just gives you a perspective of things going on in the valley. And as well, what page was that other?
Oh, page 5, I think.
Page 5.
17.
You do have a question. I don't know.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, it would just a couple of quick things. One is, well, obviously, I want to say thank you so much for the all the work that is done on the roads. It's I think last year was there were some challenging conditions, but it was excellently done. Well done, and it's good to see some of those projects get knocked off as well, the more capital projects. I was actually going to ask about the situation this year, if you have any more clarity on that, the capital versus what we can get done with our current contractor and what can't, and if there's or if that's a discussion we should have later, we can push it off.
No, I think it's a good point. So yeah, we are more challenged this year to do work with our current term contractor because the purchasing department wants us to bid any significant project like we did last year. Last year we had the term contractor Western perform the fish culvert replacement on Lake Tahoe. And purchasing department is not comfortable with us doing that this year, and they want us to bid it. And so that means we're putting it out on the street to bid. It's a very inefficient process, I believe. We found that last year that project on Lake Tahoe was estimated to be about $224,000 by the engineer. And working with Western, we got the project done for $169,000. One is because they are already mowed. They know the area very well. They have equipment and materials already stockpiled here that we've purchased, and then they were actually great to work with in the field because they found ways to modify the plans. And just a sort of brief summary here is the original plans called for us to cut the water line, and you'll see in the pictures we've exposed the water line on Lake Tahoe, and then drop it. And through working with AWU while in the field, we determined that we could actually just put in a abandoned culvert that one day if AWU needed to pull a new water line, they could put that water line through that culvert and not have to disturb the new fish culvert that we had put in right above it. And so that right there saved us close to $30,000 and probably another 2 weeks of the project. So those type of things were really handy. But this year, the purchasing department now really wants us to bid anything of significant project like that. And so we're working through that process right now for the new fish culvert on Davos, which the engineer estimate is about $510,000. And so for them, they weren't comfortable with the term contractor doing that work.
But Western can bid for that.
Sorry,
Western could bid for that, and obviously they already have equipment mobilized, so that should give us a low price.
Correct. So we hope that they aren't too busy now, as they've been chasing other work, knowing.
Understood.
We will still have them working on ditching improvements for us. We'll be dealing with some smaller projects, which purchasing is comfortable with them doing. And so there'll be actually a lot of work that we still would do with them this summer.
Is that evaluation criteria on those that are hitting the street? Is it just purely low bid? There's no other criteria? That's it. That's the way construction projects work, low bid for the municipality. Even though I don't feel like that's the best process, I wish there was more of like a RFP, a request for proposal. Because there's a lot of times we end up with a contractor that maybe just not suitable for the project when somebody just above them at a price that's still reasonable is totally qualified and has a reputation for getting things done. Correct? Yeah, RFQ sometimes will take care of that. They keep people.
Why can't?
In construction, we don't see that the purchasing department is willing to do that. Now, when it comes to setting up a design team, they are fine with RFPs and going through that process. So yeah, it is.
It is what it is. And now we're in election year, so we don't see there's going to be much change with the way that those type of things are handled at purchasing level.
Do you know what triggered that? Did somebody slap their hand about the other one, or it was a dollar amount that triggered that?
I think it was really just a change in leadership that changed that thinking and became much more conservative about how they do these type of things as compared to what had it been for the last 20 years.
Yes, in all fairness, they are under a lot of pressure.
Yes, correct. So
I think there have been some issues at another large road service area to the north of the municipality.
Yes.
So that's probably where the questions came from.
Yep. So we've been dealing with that stuff. So anyways, I'll move into, we also in this packet, we have a park review. So all the projects and Margaret did a great job putting this together with all the pictures. And this just gives you a summary of like our staffing for the year and the different projects that they helped us with. They were very immensely valuable for us, having them with us this year. And then we also had Kara and Jared as our hosts that volunteered in the park and lived in the park for us this last year. And this just goes through and talks about all the different projects completed in 23. And so to make you aware, especially if anybody's asking where your tax dollars are going, you can direct them to these documents and show the different things that happened out there. So I appreciate Margaret putting together a great detail list, and the pictures are wonderful as well. So yeah, so that's kind of an overrun of the review for this year, and open up to other questions you might have.
Thank you, Kyle and Margaret, so much. This is really fantastic. And I am sorry I cut in when you were about to highlight that section too. And I think Amanda did have her hand up, so if she has something, she could jump in, or anyone else online or in the room.
Mike did ask the question that I was going to about Western applying to that. So thank you. And thank you both for all that work. Yeah, really appreciate it. I did have another question though that came up. I know this is last year's end of year report. I'm wondering how much is available in the undesignated fund at the moment, if you know.
Top of my head, I think it's like 350,000 or maybe 380,000. I don't have that right, but yeah, it is in there. And keep in mind with the undesignated account, it does take assembly approval to move those funds out and then put it into a different account. So, so when we do go to touch that account, we should think about how much we want to take out and try to do it in one lump sum so that we don't have to go through assembly process each time to move funds.
So with the undesignated fund, we can't just use it to pay for little things that come up like additional training. I'm just forgetting how that works.
Well, I think what we typically do is we look at, you know, what the training and what budget it might be associated with, and we look at that budget and say, okay, if we cut this, we can afford to do that, or you know, maybe there is funding. And I think what you're getting to is that Bearware is interested in doing some additional training this year. And in the past, I think we have that fund in there, and you know, it's like a miscellaneous fund within the police department to help us with towing, impounds, signage, special events. And, you know, I think there would be funding available for if we wanted to do something for Bearware that we've done, you know, historically, we've already done in the past, we can use that fund there.
And you're saying that, well, and that's something we'll look at to see if it's available. So get it on the agenda to talk about. Yes.
I would probably say if Bearware is seeking funding, they should ask for make a agenda request to GBOS and present the request to you guys for you guys to consider to approve.
Awesome. Thank you for the steps.
Jennifer has had her hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Brianna. You know, I just wanted to say I'm no budget expert, but this seems astounding to me, the surpluses and excesses and what you guys are managing to get done for a really reasonable amounts of money. So I just wanted to definitely say thank you. But Also acknowledge in particular the work getting grants, because I know that that can be headaches, but that seems to be at least part of the reason for some of these surpluses. So just a big shout out to staff for plodding through that.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And we're excited to see success with grants as well. We have 2 more right now in the hopper. We're waiting for the state to give us confirmation that they've been approved. So that should help us with 24 as well.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for that. I think it's amazing. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer, for acknowledging that. Mike has his hand, and then after that, in the room, anyone?
Yeah, I just want to second. Jennifer said it better than I would have done, but I want to second that as well. It really is. Every year we see very, very similar, excellent management of the funds, and we still end up with, as you often say, Kyle, by far the lowest mill rate across any area of the municipality with full services. So thank you for that. I had one other question since we're looking back at the year. When was the last time there was an audit of any of the service area here? Because I know that the audit process sort of goes through different parts of the municipality, and I don't actually recall seeing one in the recent past.
Well, the fire department had an audit.
Oh, yes.
Which, Chief Weston requested back when she first came on board. So we had a full audit review there, which helped us streamline their expenses. And so, but outside of that, I've had individual audits done, which relate to my purchase card, which is basically my credit card. Yeah. So, and that almost happens every year. They go through and audit that. But we haven't had a full audit through all the service area accounts for quite some time.
Okay. I suspect it'll be a very, very good audit if we did have one. My second question was something I know it's been bouncing around for a few years, consideration about whether it's worth pushing to basically become a department within the municipality, or whether we are better off not having that visibility. What would be, since we have a little bit of time, what are the sort of pros and cons in your opinion, Kyle?
I think, the pros would be that maybe we have dedicated accounting staff that just focus on Girdwood. But on the other hand, the con is that I don't know if we really need that as much, because we aren't like daily making bills or payments or invoices. So I think the way we got the system set up now, it works. It's just important that your staff in Girdwood are maintaining and watching the support that we get from Anchorage. And I've gotten to understand it, like I work at times with the accounting department in parks, and then I work with the accounting department primarily in street and public works to maintain all the expenses that we have going on. And it makes sense to do it that way, because I always want to keep a relationship with parks, and then keeping a close relationship with public works. If anything, being in those individual departments allows me to keep a feel of what's going on in the city. And so just having conversations with them, like, hey, you got to pay this invoice. Hey, what else is going on? And I'll learn a lot more about things going on. Because, at times we're on an island out here. And so trying to keep aware of what's going on in the municipalities, from, mayor policies and procedures to operating. It's really important that we keep those relationships with those different people that support us in Anchorage.
Okay, and that's done best by being split across these different departments.
I think so, yes, because each department's got their own unique things going on, and they directly relate to things that we're doing here as well, since we're part of the municipality.
Okay, is there anything missing in terms of the support we're getting from other municipal departments? Anything we could perhaps focus on in the future?
I would probably have said yes about 6 months ago, but we've seen some positions get filled, and because we had a waiver retirement and people leaving. And so at times it was direction and leadership. We were a little bit rudderless trying to find direction out of town. But things have improved a bit because people have moved into positions. under, that aren't directors, but they're in more long-term positions. So I'm starting to see, and they're starting to get a grasp about what Girdwood is and how it works within all these systems. So I think it's getting better. And now we're just preparing ourselves for what's going to happen here post-election. Are we staying with the same leadership, or is there new leadership coming in, which then brings different organizational aspirations and things like that. So we're just preparing for that well. But this at point would probably, I think, be my 5th administration that we go through. So we're prepared to deal with it when it comes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No other questions in the room? Oh, Jennifer, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, thank you for those questions. That was helpful. I also, just since, as Mike said, we have a little extra time, I have a question about the capital account balances.
Sure.
Do we have those?
I can quickly pull them up. And they won't be fully accurate, but we can try to go and find them. Get to it here. And the reason I say they won't be fully accurate is we just made those transfers to budget. So we just transferred from operating both for street maintenance, fire, and now Parks and Rec. And so they will be a little bit more. I think it's coming up now.
That's totally fine. I was just kind of wondering roughly.
Capital breakdown. Let's see here. I go back one. Let's see, work session 3. I think this is it though.
Looks like there's a tab. Is that right for capital accounts?
Yeah, maybe down here. There it is. Yep, good point. Capital accounts. Okay, so yeah, this gives you a bit of a summary, and these are actually probably numbers have gone up or down depending on the department. Yep, like this is pretty accurate. We're somewhere in the $800,000 range. We just are moving over the capital contribution, which is going to be $200,000. So we're close to $1 million in that range, which has been a goal of mine, and I'm excited for that to get to that point. We do have money that right now is designated, so we haven't used it yet, but we do have about $500,000 that's going to go towards the bridge that was approved by GBOS. But this gives you a summary of what's available right now. So we're close to $1 million available in that account. This did go down because we made payments out of it. So I think we're still more in like the $600,000 to $700,000 range, but we have a contribution coming to that account as well for 24. We do still have a little bit of money left in the cemetery. That just needs to be cleaned up, which we'll work on here. And then the fire department right now is, let's see here, it's back at the top. The fire department right now is sitting close to over $200,000 in their account. And then there's a contribution that was approved last night, so they should be up over $300,000 in their account right now. That account got a big draw got pulled from it to help pay the original down payment on the Engine 41. So yeah, we are we're in that range, but I can give you a more accurate overview. And I think actually I do give it to you in the monthly reports at GBOS as well. So we can give that to you in the next meeting.
No, that's great. I wanted to ask in this meeting, because of the way we're doing things, which is a little different than other, say, municipalities, because we're essentially forward funding instead of bonding. I have a question about whether or not there's a capacity for investment of funds.
Oh, so they'll put it into a high yield interest fund?
Nothing risky.
Yeah.
But at even a low percentage, once you've passed, well, at any amount really, but even at a low percentage, once you've passed $1 million, that is tens of thousands.
Yeah, that's a good question to ask. I do know that we do make interest on our funds, and we do see that at times be appropriated to our undesignated account each year. I haven't ever seen actually an audit of how much we earn, but we will see increases at times that will go into our undesignated account, which then can also offset our mill rate as well. So I would probably have to ask the finance team as to what that looks like and what we may be making on interest gain as a revenue source for the service area every year.
Okay, thanks.
I can partially answer that. There is a number when you look at the accounts in each year's budget that gets published by OMB. There's a number of which is the income from investments, and it normally sits around 120,000 recently for us. So we're pulling in about 120,000 from, I believe, I don't know if that's all the capital or some of the capital or plus reserves and other things, but it's not insignificant.
Okay, so thank you, Mike. So those investment decisions are made by the city.
Well, by the municipality, yeah. I'm not going to use the word city ever again.
I know. Point taken.
I've got to be careful about using it.
Yeah, so I'll just pull up the quickly here. I think you can maybe see it somewhere in here, one of these line items.
It's under income somewhere.
Yeah. Further down.
I haven't actually looked at, I've looked at this year's, but I don't remember it in previous years, the number I pulled out.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And so like program generated revenue. And so there could be something associated with that or something.
Isn't it not debt service, is it?
I think so. And maybe here, equipment furnishings.
No, that's under cost. It's actually under, it's on one of the, it's one of them under income. Maybe it's the consolidated account at the end.
Yeah. We'll try to get a better idea what that looks like. Somewhere in here.
But it is a chunk of change each year.
Yes. And that's what always screws up my mill rate calculation that I give you, because that helps offset our mill rate as well. So
yeah.
Well, I'm not going to complain. Thank you for that.
Okay. Set up. All right, I think that's it from my side, unless anybody's got any other questions.
Oh, actually, I did have one quick question. I saw the fund number for, or the code for the fund for economic housing for operations. Do we also have a capital for that? At the moment, we wouldn't have anything in it, but I just wondered, does everything have an equivalent capital?
No.
Fund? Okay.
No, we don't
have to get that created.
We have to make a contribution, and then we would set it up, and then
okay,
yep.
Right.
But we don't have a contribution. We don't have a thing for 23, 24.
Right. There's some work going on the room tax issues, so there's a possibility we might get something coming in that way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then we would have to set that up separately.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions in the room? Just wanted to give you a chance, Guy, in case you had anything.
Good.
Okay, if there's nothing else on this agenda, we have public comment remaining. Is there anyone here for public comment today? Any there, Kyle? No?
No, nobody. Just
okay. Well, thank you again for this thorough review, and Margaret as well, and everything you do. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay,
second then.
Just about a tie. There you go. 1-2. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned at 1 o'clock.
All right.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
afternoon.
Bye.
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 Bye.